Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another week of Game Wisdom Live here on the Twitch stream and hopefully the recording up on YouTube. We are going for the week of May 4th, 2017. It is officially spring and officially my allergies are in full swing. My nose has been stuffed for the last few days, and my right eye has been bothering me to the point that it's just tearing up. So there's a good chance I may be rubbing my eye a lot for this stream. But we'll see how things go. But before we get going, let's welcome back to the show this week, James Ellerby.
Howdy, guys, and yeah, Josh, my allergies are kind of kicked in full swing too. Yeah, so I feel you on that one.
And unfortunately, this is looking like it's going to be like one of the worst allergy seasons I think we've had in a while. I was
Yeah.
at my allergy doctor yesterday. I get monthly allergy shots, and like everyone in there was complaining of like the same thing. My eyes are watering, my throat is sore. I'm like
Uh-huh.
going, oh god, I should just like live in a bubble. I think that's just like live in like hermetically sealed container. Maybe that will be the
Josh the Bubble Boy.
yeah. In some exciting news, tomorrow I'm going to be giving another live presentation. This is going to be a different one, which also means I need to actually shave my like winter starter beard I have going right now. And I'm going to be talking about basically what to expect as a first timer entering the game industry. You know, things to start looking at, some important
Hmm.
sites. And what
Mhm.
James was talking about before the cast, you know, I'm going to scare the kids straight, basically, on getting into the game
Sounds good.
industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the second one that I have scheduled, and this is going to be the last of kind of like this trial period with the library system around here. So I'm
Uh-huh.
hoping I'll knock this one out of the park, and then they'll be interested in the other presentations.
Yeah, sounds good.
hmm In terms of site news, we did a whole lot of discussions over the last week. I had my podcast with game designer Dino Dini, where we talked about video game journalism, which was a very interesting conversation, especially again because it is such a polarizing topic between the consumer and journalistic side, and then you have the developer side of things. So
Mm.
it's never as like cut and dry because I've spoken to a few people after that, and like a few people on the journalism or developer side agree with what Dino was saying, and now I have friends and people who are on the actual just the journalists or consumer part. Or I'm sorry, the designers agree with what he was saying, and then the journalists had a few disagreements with what he was talking about. But it's never an easy topic, especially considering just how big and like how interesting the journalism side of the game industry is different from the design side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be coming back to that topic more and more as we have more guests throughout, I guess, 2017 now. But some other interesting news, we actually hit 1,700 subscribers as of this recording. So we are now just 300 away from 2,000. And then we begin the march up to 3,000 subscribers. So
Mm-hmm.
we will see what happens there. Let's see.
Moving up, man.
hmm Trying to get a few more podcast guests scheduled, but the backlog is getting bigger and bigger. So we're going to see about trying to do more stuff live. So if you're watching this right now, and if you're either a member of the game industry or the journalism side, or you just like talking about video games and would like to hang out with us, feel free to send me a message because we are always looking for new guests. But I guess that does it for me in terms of like what's been going for me. So how are things with you, James?
Going pretty good. Like I said, I'm getting ready for my summer job, which is working at a Renaissance fair. So once that goes, like I said, I'll be gone for a little bit. But other than that, yeah, things are looking pretty good. Been playing I got Nioh, and I just picked up the handsome handsome Jack collection
Ah.
for Borderlands, which I love Borderlands. I'm
hmm
huge, always been a huge fan of Borderlands, and so we'll definitely gonna be enjoying that. And plus, like Borderlands is so good because
hmm
like it is it's such a multiplayer friendly game, and
hmm
it has couch co-op, which like nobody does anymore. So
hmm
that's a really refreshing.
Have you played all the Borderlands games already?
One I have not played the newest one, so that's another reason why I got
hmm
uh why I got this one. So because I haven't played the newest one yet.
I'm curious to hear what you think about them because I know a lot of people felt the pre-sequel was the weakest of the
Was the
three.
weakest, yeah. So I've heard. Yeah, a
hmm
friend of mine said that was the case for him too.
Yeah. What do you think about Neo so far?
I have it's good. It really is a good. It really is a good game. It does bring out a lot of the Dark Souls rage in me. It's just one of those why is this boss so freaking hard? Um, but I'm a huge fan of numbers and stats and statistics and stuff like that. Like I loved. I was a huge fan of one of my early loves was Armored Core, and
hmm
so like I say, anything that's stat based, I definitely
hmm
fully enjoy. So and Neo is definitely a stat heavy friendly game. So if you like stats and statistics and numbers, then I definitely encourage you to play that game. So
And of course, rolling for higher and higher loot as well.
and that's what I was talking about before too. Like when I was talking about like I think there's such a thing as good RNG and bad RNG.
hmm
Like, but when bad things can happen to you in a game is different than just like what kind of good stuff can happen. You know what I mean?
hmm
So like for I do like the RNG of the game where I might get a weapon with a different stat on it or
hmm
that kind of stuff. I enjoy that stuff. Yeah, I mean it has that dark not Dark Souls Diablo esque feel to it, which is really enjoyable.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I know a few people were debating about the use of the RNG when it comes to the loot side of things, because as you've probably been playing, the higher quality loot has more passive modifiers on it, so it makes the loot a lot more desirable than the normal or the rare ones.
Yeah, but and even still, like all of that is designed for customization and personalization of character, which I am a huge
hmm
I'm a huge fan of. So
What weapons are you gravitating towards?
weapon singular, and it would be definitely be the it definitely would be I'm a hammer guy. I'm a hammer. I love hammers. Always loved hammers. Well, the hammer and axes. So I don't know, something about a big hammer, big old axe working. Yeah, I like that stuff. So.
I've been using the Kusuragama as my main.
Yeah. A lot of people I've seen have the Kusarigama, and apparently, I'm watching a lot of videos online of just other YouTubers, but
hmm
apparently, dual swords is like everybody tells you to go dual swords, and like I don't know, for me, that's a big turn off.
hmm
When people are like, "Hey, you should do this because it's the best," it makes me not want to do
Oh
that,
yeah.
and like I take it as personal challenges when people go, "Oh, that weapon sucks." Well, like, well, okay, well then I'm gonna figure out like because under my personal belief that a developer didn't put something in a game for it to be completely useless, except for the pendant in Dark Souls. But you know what I mean? So like, I want to try to find the hidden depths in everything. So
Yeah, I think I am the same way. Like, I can't play the most popular build in any game. Like, if someone tells me that this is the most overpowered, I have to go with the complete opposite.
yeah,
It's why when I'm playing Gwent that I went with Nilfgaard as my main, because everyone's doing Monster and Northern Realms.
uh-huh.
And the same goes for just about like every major thing. Like whenever I play a action RPG, I can't play your default warrior or mage. I have to go with
hmm
the crazy esoteric class, wherever that may be.
hmm
But yeah, like I didn't know about the dual swords being considered the overpopular one in Neo. Now I'm gonna have to think about
Oh yeah,
subbing out
yeah.
my secondary for something else.
Yeah. Apparently, dual swords is really popular. So,
hmm
yeah, everybody's saying that that's the best. Do that, but yeah, no, I just no, I want to try other stuff. I want to see what
hmm
like I say, I like hammer and axes. So like I'm always gonna be a fan of that kind of stuff. So
hmm
in Monster Hunter, I use a hammer. In Yeah, Monster Hunter, I'm a big fan of hammers and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the hammer and axe at Maxville. I got the bull. I've been having a lot of fun with the bull. So
hmm
for my guardian spirits, I like the guardian spirit system. I think it's a really cool implement and definitely changes it very much from Dark Souls.
hmm
You know what I mean? Like just having that even if you're doing a solo run, the guardian spirit almost feels like you have a buddy like with you, doing stuff with you, and it feels good. You know what I mean?
hmm It's great to have that backup too when you're about to get hit by something big to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
pull that on and just tank the
Uh-huh.
damage.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of cool, and it's strong without being overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that can save your butt in a fight, but if you get hit multiple times, it can get drained really, really quickly. So,
Mm-hmm.
and but one of my I think one of my only complaints in that game was the Warrior of the West fight, where you fight the Samurai Invitation
Oh.
to the Warrior of the West fight, which I've heard a lot of YouTubers complaining about that too. And
Mm-hmm.
my biggest complaint is that I feel like it's one of the few times in the game where the game does not follow its own rules.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Warrior of the West he can attack. Well, like normally you can't attack when you have no stamina. Well, the Warrior of the West can.
Mm-hmm.
Normally if you get hit when you have no stamina, you get staggered.
Mm-hmm.
The Warrior West doesn't get staggered. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
like I at first I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a build. Maybe it's just he's
Mm-hmm.
built that way. Nope, that's just the way the boss is, and it's just kind of it was actually kind of game breaking for me,
Yeah.
just like fighting this guy. And like, yeah, I know skill base was kind of a thing too, but like at the same time, it was just kind of like, I kind of had wished that they had in Dark Souls a lot humanoid characters follow the
Mm-hmm.
rules of the game. If you see a guy with a sword and he attacks you, you can parry. You can
Mm-hmm.
parry it. You know what I mean? So you're like, oh, okay, cool. And once you got that under your belt, you
Mm-hmm.
start like not only just relying on that kind of stuff, but like understanding it as basic
Mm-hmm.
as things that can keep just something that's good enough that keeps you alive, and like a skill that is rewarding for playing right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And in Neo, I felt like even if I hit all my markers and got everything correct, I still got punished, and that's not good design.
Yeah.
That's bad. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
did you have trouble with that fight at all, or
Oh
no?
yes. Oh my goodness. That was like a good like 2 hours on the stream, like the first time to beat that guy.
Yeah.
And there are a few fights like that. Like it kind of seems like the enemies are gaining advantages beyond what the combat system allows.
Yeah, and like tell you the truth, I wouldn't even mind so much about the yokai or
Mm-hmm.
the monsters in the game, because they're monsters. You know what I mean? A monster is supposed to be big. Like that's the thing about in Monster Hunter. Like in Monster Hunter, you're always fighting creatures and dragons that are meant to be more
Mm-hmm.
overpowered than you are. You know what I mean? They're meant to have like ridiculous stats and ridiculous. It's a dragon,
Mm-hmm.
so but like fighting another humanoid, he
Mm-hmm.
should be like I'm okay with him being good.
Mm-hmm.
Like uh the difference I would say is the difference between a game like Bloodborne. In
Mm-hmm.
Bloodborne, when you fight Elder Garmin the first time, when you fight Elder Garmin, you don't feel cheesed
Mm-hmm.
because like he has all of the same things you do. His skill sets are the
Mm-hmm.
exact same. So you're like
And you can do the what he can do to you, you can do to
you
him
can do to
basically.
him. Yeah, exactly. So like
Mm-hmm.
at no point do you feel like, oh, I just got like uber cheesed and that's why and that's why like I just felt like I just felt like things were
Mm-hmm.
uh a lot more fair in Bloodborne than they
Mm-hmm.
are in and
Yeah.
than they are in Neo, or at least. And keep in mind, I haven't, it was more specifically that fight with the Words of the West. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's the new boss in the DLC that also, oh my goodness, that was a pain to fight, which I
really.
uploaded the video earlier today about. And
Mm.
yet, like when you have those boss fights that just seem to get around the rules of the game, it becomes just very frustrating. More importantly, it becomes very mechanical to fight them because oh, I can only do X, Y, and Z to for any kind of safety, so I just keep doing X, Y, and Z over and over again,
Yeah.
and it just gets very annoying to fight those kinds of enemies.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm really enjoying the Omibuzu fight, the big giant slime blob thing, where you fight him. Have you fought it? Yeah, you
Oh
fought him.
yeah.
And like I actually enjoy that fight. Like I don't feel like it's cheap. Like there are times like I'll load in, he'll do like one of his strongest attacks like right away. No, but other than that, like I still feel like I have a fighting chance, and like I know what I need to do. It's just getting the timing down. Basic Dark Souls stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And it's kind of weird about that with Neo because when you compare it to a game like Bloodborne, the humanoid battles in Bloodborne are like some of like the high marks of the game.
Yeah, very much so, very much so, and like, and I like that because like,
Hmm.
and that game is all about like the hunter aspect and being able to think like a hunter, feel like a hunter, and all these things that you've been doing to fight monsters, you get to turn and use them against other player characters. Like the only other time game that I've seen that's done that on that kind of level was
Hmm.
definitely was Devil May Cry, where you get to fight Dante the first time.
Hmm.
And where that fight is just on your toes. He has all the moves that Dante has. Like you feel like a badass, but you know that the guy you're going up against is the original badass, and like it balances
Hmm.
itself out on that level. By no means is he
Hmm.
he's definitely stronger, but you never feel like he's doing something that you can't do because
Hmm.
he doesn't do anything that you can't do. So
Are you talking about the Virgil situations or a different
no,
fight?
no, no. It's a fight with I think it was Devil May Cry
Oh, four.
four,
Okay.
four, yeah, where you get to fight Dante and like
Hmm.
he's like just like like really really strong, which is what it's definitely what that series is supposed to be. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like that's definitely how if you fought Dante, it should feel like that. It should feel exactly like that. So
Hmm. And in Devil May Cry 3, there's the Virgil battles, which is like another really great group of boss fights. Because
hmm
again, you're fighting an enemy with similar abilities. And
yeah.
again, like anything he pulls out, you can reasonably match as well. Like it's
hmm
not like he gains. Oh, like if we were talking about like a Neo, it's not like he has infinite devil trigger. He has a limit just
Yeah.
like you, or he has like similar combos like yourself. But
Mhm.
yeah, some of those Neo boss fights they can really get frustrating after a while.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'd like to see a Neo 2,
Mm.
which is kind of odd. I don't know if the I haven't got to the end yet, so I don't know if the story really gives to that. But like I'd love to see what this team could do again. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And like just to see how they would improve on the formula, or like, what they would do if given another chance. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So
Yeah, but I mean, right now the DLC is going to be, I guess, trying to wrap up the story thing or the story wise. So we'll be interested to see what they decide to do with this in the future. Will they do a Neo 2? Will they do a spiritual successor? Who knows? But yeah, I guess you've played Bayonetta, right?
no, no, I've not
Ah,
played Bayonetta.
I'm curious to like I know it's out on the PC. I think it's out on PS4. Now I'm not sure, but I would really love to hear what your thoughts on that because that's the big game from Platinum Games, who
Uh,
of course who really went forward from Devil May Cry. So
yeah.
yeah, it would be
Yeah, no,
interesting.
I never got a chance to play. I never got a chance to play Bayonetta, but yeah. Hmm.
I got a comment from Chat XP saying, "Don't shave. It looks more indie to have the beard."
Yeah, it's true. All the indies are going beard now.
Hmm. And the more beard you have, the more indie you look. Like as we saw with Tim Schafer,
Yeah, Tim
like
Schafer.
you can
Yep.
always tell how long he's been working on a game by the
By the
the
size of
growth.
his beard,
Exactly.
by the ruggedness.
Because when you're in the game industry, you don't have time to shave.
Nah, no, obviously you're working on the next big
Hmm.
thing. You're working on the next Shovel Knight,
Hmm.
right?
Or the next Minecraft.
Or the next Minecraft. Yep.
Oh yeah, but getting back to Neo, I'm curious. Like, where are you like right now in the game? Like,
I'm fighting the Onibuzu,
okay, so you're
the giant slime monster. Yeah.
so that I think is the second chapter, right, or the second region, if I remember.
Yeah, yeah. Second reason. Yep.
All right.
Second reason. So.
I'm going to be curious to hear what you think about some of the later boss fights because there's some pretty crazy ones near I think like the 3/4 of the way to the end kind of thing. But yeah,
hmm
and oh, one other question I have to ask you about Neo: what kind of armor are you going with? Are you going for light, medium, or heavy?
Light, medium-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, being the fact that I'm using a really big axe, I kind of wanted to be a little faster. Like, I kind of wanted to be, hit hard but be a little quicker. So, I kind of wanted to do a little weird. I like doing weird builds, so
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to, yeah, hit hard but be fast. So, I have like shinobi armor and like, but I also am wearing the Omioto mask. So that's a heavy piece of armor.
Uh,
But yeah, I'm actually below. I think I'm like around 47%.
okay, so I think if I remember right, that's I think middle speed or middle
Hmm.
agility. Yeah, I stuck with just light all the way because once I like felt that difference between the light dash or the light dodge and the medium dodge, I
Yeah.
was just like I gotta keep with that light dodge
Yeah, and
just for
I
that
think a
speed.
lot of people. I think a lot of people went that way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even see a lot of people online using heavy armor at all.
Mm-hmm. Although I've seen a lot of streamers go for like the tanky builds, and
Yeah.
I don't know, like it just seems like it's kind of like I'm watching them. They're like taking this hit, and it's like only taking a quarter of their health, and I'm like thinking about if I got hit by that, it's just instant kill for me. So it's always weird to like see the difference like that. But yeah, it's kind of weird again. Like as you said, like it has like that different feel to it because of the different weapons and how the different armors can really impact things. And
Hmm.
I'm going to be curious to see what you pick when you get to the point where you can decide when you start collecting set pieces, because there
Oh
are.
yeah, yeah. They said there are different set
Mm-hmm,
pieces of armor, which is going to be kind of interesting to see. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of Diablo,
mm-hmm,
so I'm kind of really excited to be using that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I like finding sets and seeing what the different stuff are. But yeah, like I said, I'm actually really enjoying the spirit animals. Like I think that is it's a fun system, and I'm definitely
Mm-hmm,
definitely enjoying it. Like I said, I love the ox, and that was actually something that just kept saving my butt during the War of the West fight was
uh,
just having that ox available, and just like he'd throw out his dog, and I'm like, well, ox beats dog, and just this big old bull just comes around and like freaking just nails him. So I love
mm-hmm.
it.
I went with the I think it's like the wind-based bird, like one of like the three starter ones.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, because I want to get that bonus for evasion and just
Uh-huh.
the doing quick attacks, like
Oh,
get the
cool.
increased damage for that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's
But
interesting. That's kind of cool though.
mm-hmm. And the spear weapons or the living weapons, you get more functionality with it once you beat the game for the first time. They give you
Yeah,
more
I
options.
was hearing about that. Yeah, that they kind of that the new game plus is actually really where it's at. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. Cool. That's you definitely want to. I
Mm-hmm.
think that definitely needs to be a thing that they need to
Yeah.
keep going with that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's good.
I'm curious to see what they're going to do because the season pass promises three different story-based DLCs for the game, and the
Yeah.
one that was just released yesterday or the other day, that's number one. So they still
Hmm.
have two more to add to the game. So
Yeah.
who knows what they're going to do with that one? I'm wondering if they're
Yeah.
going
No.
to continue the trend and have that you have to beat like each DLC in order. Because the Dragon of the North, you have to beat the main game to get to it because it continues the story basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm. Let's see other games that have been like going on. I recently put up some spotlights for some indie games I've been playing. I am
Hmm.
almost finished with Hollow Knight too.
Okay.
I think I'm like 80 or 90% completed. All I have left is the boss fight and then the final, the post super secret boss fight to do. And
Yeah.
then that is it. Oh, I put up this game that I think you would like as well. I got this. Gorder was telling me about this. It's called Dead Cells. It's a
Hmm.
Metroidvania roguelike.
Metroidvania roguelike. Okay.
It's all 2D, and you go through randomly generated levels. It's actually kind of like Rogue Legacy in a sense.
Okay. Yeah, I played Rogue Legacy.
So as you're fighting, you collect souls, which allow you to buy permanent upgrades, and those
Okay.
remain persistent how many
Yeah.
times you die. And then when you die, you get sent back to the start. And it has like a little bit more like a technical feel to it. You have a dodge roll, you can pick up different weapons, and it has some really good pixel art and animation as well.
Oh, that sounds cool. That actually sounds kind of cool though.
Yeah, it's coming out on Steam on the 10th of May, and then they're going with early access to wrap it up.
Oh, really? Okay, that's
Hmm.
kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, and I played some of Condemned. I went back to Condemned Criminal Origins for the first time in a long time. Did you ever play the Condemned series?
No, no, I don't think I actually have.
Ah, it's a first-person survival horror game where you're basically hunting down serial killers, and every homeless person is out to kill you. And like you can
Wait,
pick,
what?
yeah, basically something's driving all the people crazy, so you're just surrounded by homeless people who are out to get you, and you pick up basically anything in the environment to use as a weapon, and they all have like different stats to them. So you can pick up like a clothing rack, a piece of rhubarb concrete, a mannequin arm if it's around. Um,
Okay.
I think at one point you can pick up like a sign, just like take the sign off the wall, and just like beat a guy with it.
Okay.
And it's like all like dark. It's made by the same company who did Fear. Did you ever play Fear?
No, no, I've heard of Fear though.
It's kind of like a first-person shooter meets a Matrix bullet time in a sense.
Okay.
You're
Hmm.
in office complexes and garages, and you're fighting like a paramilitary company, and you basically have super bullet time as your power. So you're
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen
yeah.
that. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And there's a ghost that like follows you around and just jump
Mm-hmm.
scares to you, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and
Hmm.
it so with the Condemn, like it's I what I really liked about it was it had like this like down to earth feel to it because you're basically just fighting other humans. And going back to what you were saying with Neo, basically they have the same advantages that you have. You know, they grab a random piece of item off the wall, you grab a random item off the wall, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
just about you two just smacking each other with it. And then there are like some supernatural elements too. You have like a serial killer who's stalking you, and I really enjoyed the first one, but the sequel has been up for debate because they basically just they kind of try to do the we're going to explain everything in the sequel, and it robs it of its magic. And they
Oh
like
wow.
went like crazy. Like the first game is just about you fighting serial killers, and then the
Yeah.
second game says, "Oh, but now there's a Illuminati who's controlling the world, and you have super death scream powers, which is actually a thing in the second game." And it just went kind of like off the deep end for the second game, which is a shame because I really want to see that series go. Because to me, everything that Condemned does, I think Outlast does worse in terms of like
Really?
putting you in as a normal person in a horrific situation. Let's
Hmm.
see. Have you played either Outlast yet, James?
No, no, I have not.
Uh, yeah, we were making fun of that on the stream. We call them running simulators because that's all you do
Ah,
in those games.
wow. Hmm.
Let's see. Comment in chat. XP idea for a critical thought. Any failed developers you've interviewed and why? Oh, that's an
Oh
interesting
yeah,
one.
we had one. Do you remember we did have a interview about a guy whose game did not do very well. Remember? I cannot remember the name though.
It was either Brigador or Skyshine's Bedlam. I think it was one of those
I think it
two.
was Sky Shines. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Where he talked about like yeah, and they talked about like what it means to fail in
Mm-hmm.
the game industry, and like that
Mm-hmm.
is because that's something that is something that's not
Mm-hmm.
publicized a lot because it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
hard to market to people. Hey,
Yeah.
you can not do good in this industry, but it is the truth. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't.
Yeah. And that's why I'm going to scare the kids with it tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think Brigador may have actually. I know when we first spoke with the developer of Brigador, he was very depressed about the game. I remember hearing that in his voice. But I
Hmm.
think things have been turning around since then. I know they've been doing. I've been seeing like more people talk about it on Twitter. I think they just released a patch to make the controls a little bit better as well. Oh, he's
Really?
talking about failure as in leaving game development. I actually have one
Hmm.
example of that. Um, but maybe we'll save that one for the critical thought because I can only think of one. I know one developer. I talked about this on a critical thought who shortchanged their Kickstarter, which led to their game failing. But I
Yeah.
don't know if they actually left the industry. But I know one case where the guy, I'm pretty sure he's no longer making video games anymore.
Oh
So
wow.
maybe I can talk about that one.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
definitely. I think yeah, definitely gotta get more people like that though.
Hmm. Let me see. What was I about to say? It's always great when I lose my train of thought when we're doing these things live.
Hmm.
Um, oh, I forgot to tell you. Remember when I looked at that game Snake Pass like 2, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
apparently one of the developers found my dissecting design of it on
Oh
YouTube,
wow. Okay.
and he
Yeah.
actually liked it. He was saying it was great to hear someone who actually got the game. So I thought that was
Oh,
pretty cool.
reach out, reach out. We
Oh
got to
yeah.
get him on. Tell him we
hmm
get him on here.
I said, if you guys want to talk, let me know. But we
I mean, we
haven't
got
heard anything
because I we
back.
got to ask him like, yo, what's up with that Banjo Kazooie music? Cause
hmm
that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's always fun when we're. It's nice to see things like the reach is growing when
Yeah.
as we're talking and reaching out to developers.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I think next, if oh yeah, for those of you watching this right now, either live or recorded, we're going. I'm putting up two different podcasts this week, just because of how big the backlog has gotten. So the first one is the recorder cast we did with Brian Cronin. For those of you who remember, we had our live discussion about um, tabletop design, and that was a lot of fun. And then tomorrow it will be my second podcast I did with what was his name? Sandy Peterson.
Sandy Peterson. Yep.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the Orcs Must Die 2 Kickstarter and how he translated Orcs Must Die to a tabletop game. So that
Mm.
was a lot of fun, and here's hoping we can get him on for a live discussion, especially about Cthulhu Wars.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hmm. Huh. Let's see. We just remember what XP wrote. Um, huh. Have we heard anything from? You know who Phil Fish is, right, James?
Mm-mm.
Oh, the guy he created that game Fez, and they had a massive blowout.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Enough Fez, yeah.
Yeah. Just wondering if we've heard anything more from Phil. I know it's been 2, 3 years since he said he's giving up on the game industry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's definitely a very interesting case when it comes to the independent scene.
Definitely.
Let's see. Yeah. So, as I was saying, be sure to look for. I posted the Brian podcast yesterday for those of you watching this recorded, and the Sandy Pearson one will be going up on Friday. So that way I can slowly but surely move through this backlog of podcasts, so that when I have someone I don't have to tell them, oh, your podcast will go up in 3 months from now at the rate I'm going. But I do have one of the new goals on Patreon to add more podcasts to the site. So maybe we'll hit that at some point. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
we are at $50 for Patreon, so we're halfway to our first $100 goal. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Phil Fish is supposedly he's working on a Tetris clone for VR. Hmm,
Oh really? Huh.
interesting. And I know there's a few more we've been seeing a lot more big indie games starting to come out. So again, for you indie developers watching this, if you'd like to come on and say hi and talk with us, definitely get in touch. We'd love to have you. And let's see, what is our time? We're about 40 minutes in, not counting
Mm-hmm.
our little pre-stream. Oh, he did that in 2016. I guess I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Let's see. I played another indie game, doing Nioh. Oh, my favorite game of 2016, Renowned Explorers, is getting another DLC coming out in a few days, and I got a press copy for that I'm going to take a look at either tonight or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping we get those guys back on because I've spoken to them several times, and I'm hoping that this does well because I remember when I spoke with the lead designer at Abbey Games, the studio who made it, and he said that basically Renowned Explorers is like a nightmarish ordeal to make. Like it took him about a year, and he said that it probably aged me 20 years making the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that things will have turned around for them because I would love to see what else these guys can do because they went from this game called Ruse, which was like this pseudo city builder, to
Yeah.
Renowned Explorer. So whatever they do next will be very interesting. Oh, I just remembered the game I want to bring up quickly. This is a game I'm pretty sure you haven't heard of, James, but it's called Stefan's Sausage Roll. Have you heard of that one?
No. No, I think I would have heard of that.
It's people have been describing it as the Dark Souls of puzzle games.
The Dark
And
Souls of puzzle games.
yes, it's
Hmm.
a I guess it's a push based puzzle game. You have to There's no story to it. Your only objective is you have to roll sausages onto grills to grill both sides of the sausage without over burning one.
Okay.
And the puzzles are just ridiculously complex despite that simple premise. It's insane. The game's like $30 on Steam, which is even the weirder part. So I got it
Okay.
as part of the latest Humble Bundle, and it's one of those games I'm not sure if it's brilliant or just a giant pain in
Or
the
just a
ass to
yeah,
play.
yeah. It sounds like, and it's funny because like it sounds like it could go. It's one or the other. Like,
hmm Yeah, so at some point I need to make a video about it just to, I guess, share the pain of that game. Excuse me. But
hmm,
yeah, I'm definitely an interesting game. And at some point, I need to make a video on War for the Overworld, which is the Dungeon Keeper spiritual successor. I got that press key like a few months ago. I just haven't had the time to like sit down and dedicate to it. And that's
mm-hmm.
always one of like the interesting things, especially as you start to get a lot. Like one of the interesting things about getting all these press keys that it becomes very hard to like pick and choose like what you're able to do in a given day. So
Mm-hmm.
I find myself like if a game like annoys me or feels like it's going to take a while to get into, it becomes a lot harder for me to start playing that game. So it's always that challenge of just trying to pick what game to cover at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still slowly but surely getting through Persona 5 too.
Oh yeah, yeah. How's that going?
It's going well. I finished the fourth palace of the game right now. I think if I remember right, I'm in mid September of obviously the game is done like in a school year.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm past the halfway point of the game now. So we'll see how things go. I'm playing it on normal just because I found like hard to be a little too like if I had no other games to dedicate, I could probably play Persona 5 on hard. But with everything else on my plate, there's just not enough time in the day to make
Yeah.
things even harder like that.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, I think we're about like 36 minutes in.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our big topic because if we're not careful, this could take us like to an hour and a half, 2 hours. And that is about accessibility in competitive games. This is based on the Post and Industry Insight, or I think Critical Thought, I made a few days ago. And this had to do with the announcement of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which I'm sure you are well aware of, like what
Oh
that
yeah.
game is.
Oh yeah.
So the big news about was basically Capcom changing and streamlining a lot of the design, a lot of the more technical aspects of the game. And since I'm not as versed in, I'm sure you're probably more versed in Marvel vs. Capcom than I am. Do you know what they're changing with the new
I
one?
I honestly don't actually. So far the only thing. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I do know that they are switching to a they are switching to a 2v2 mode, a 2v2 when the last game was 3v3,
Mm-hmm.
which the original game was 2v2. So that's kind of a okay. Here's the thing. I think there's a big difference between a throwback and
Mm-hmm.
going back, and
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like they're doing the latter there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they think they're doing the four. They think they're throwing back, but
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of fans are kind of like, well, we've already had three. Why would you take one away? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of goes off. But also, they're I guess they're adding the Infinity Gems
Mm-hmm.
in, which they had those in the Capcom or no
Mm-hmm.
X-Man versus Capcom was one of their older titles had that in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it seems like they're really trying to go back to a lot of their old stuff that kind of really put them on the board when I felt like they were kind of making progress in the new
Mm-hmm.
game. So yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how the rest of the fighting game community takes that. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was watching a video about this on YouTube the other day that someone was talking about how they're streamlining the combo system. They're going to give you the option to basically have like one button for combos essentially,
Mm-hmm.
instead of having again to deal with like multiple combos and directional inputs to perform these systems.
Yeah.
And that has got a lot of, I think, competitive players kind of on edge. And
Yeah.
that is a very interesting, and this is what goes with the debate about accessibility in competitive games. I was talking with my friend Josh over at PvP Live about this the other night. We were saying let's just have a casual chat on Skype, and then 2 hours have passed, and we're still talking.
Ha 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 ha.
But we were talking about again that accessibility and competitive games have really been at odds with each other, even since the days of StarCraft. That
Yeah.
many competitive players feel that accessibility is kind of like a crutch for playing these games. For instance, in StarCraft, there are a lot of UI and quality of life
Uh-huh.
features missing in that game, which was
Yeah.
explicitly done by Blizzard to appease the esports community. Like,
Hmm.
if you put, and I was talking about this, if you put StarCraft next to a game like Rise of Nations, which Rise of Nations was, it wasn't a competitive RTS by any
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
The UI is just miles ahead of what's in StarCraft and StarCraft 2.
Wow, that's kind of interesting coming from the fact that StarCraft that's a big developer. We're talking
Yeah,
about Blizzard here, you know what I mean?
but yeah, and the point is that Star Blizzard could make these changes. I am very sure they are well aware of how UI design has evolved.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
they have chosen not to do that because the competitive scene complained that they felt it would dumb things down. And when we look at fighting games, obviously I think you're well aware of this as much as I am. There is a very big technical wall when it comes to learning a fighting
Yes.
game.
Yes,
It's
very
not
much so.
it's not just about you learning special moves. It's about,
Yeah.
these crazy combo strings that again when you're watching, when you're watching Evo each year,
Yeah.
you can see just how insane these
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
players can
Yeah.
get
Well,
with
well,
it.
especially when you get to that higher
Oh
level
yeah.
of fighting games, it gets down to who gets their first or second combo off. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Where because like we're talking about like in Mortal
Oh
Kombat,
yes.
40% is a lot of damage, and like to any even people that don't know what
Mhm.
what health is. 40% of a life bar is
Mhm.
still anybody can real think oh wow that's a lot, that's
And
a lot of you know.
and you can and you watch like the guy just like get juggled for like a good 10, 15
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, like when this is one of the things that just bored me when I was trying to watch like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. That's the latest one.
yep.
Trying to watch that Evo play. I just watched like, okay, the guy hits him in the air, he jumps up, and then there's 20 seconds of combos. Guy gets knocked down, gets hit back up there. 20 more seconds of combo. Now all his bars of health are dead. Oh, but wait, he just
Mm-hmm.
activated X Factor, and now he just kills the other guy with like one big combo string.
Mm-hmm.
And it just and like for like expert players, this is a major component of playing these fighting games. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure like people like PR Balrog, Sonic Fox, and the
Sonic
like,
Fox and stuff like that. Yeah.
they must spend a lot of time
Mhm.
just committing these combo strings to
To
memory.
memory, to memory. Yeah, and trust me, I played a lot of
Hmm.
Tekken with my brother back
Hmm.
when we were younger, and like you almost had to do like well let's put it this way, back in
Hmm.
the earlier days of Tekken, I almost felt like there was more. It was less about the combos and more about the more just about the game, just gameplay. You know, hitting each other. You know, I guess in
Hmm.
competitive terms would be called footsies.
Hmm.
And like I felt like back in the day Tekken was more about the footsies gameplay,
Hmm.
and now like there's a button now specifically to juggle somebody.
Hmm.
So like, and I remember Marvel versus Capcom did that. Juggling used to be a mechanic that you had to really work at to pull off. Now I feel like if anything to say about the whole things going casual, I feel like now it's a mechanic that is now implemented as easily as possible. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because it's such an advanced tool, I think that now it's one of those, oh, well, if your game has to make juggling really easy for
Hmm.
players, or we're going to lose the common core fan
Hmm.
base or
Yeah.
the casual market.
Yeah.
So
And XP was bringing up like Yoshi and Smash Bros, like that
Oh
crazy,
yeah. Oh yeah.
the
Yep.
flutter kick and
Mm-hmm.
those attacks like that. And
Yep.
I'm glad, yeah, like, and that's the very interesting. That's where this divide comes in because when we think about good game design, like if we're like teaching a class on game development,
Yeah.
then accessibility and streamline is pretty much considered,
Is key.
par
Is
for parcel, or
key.
part, yeah.
Yep.
Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't make your game hard to learn. That's like the number one rule. One of like the 10 commandments of game design.
Yep.
Making your game inaccessible is only going to doom it. But when we talk about competitive games, this is where things get very interesting because, and I talked about this in the post and the critical thought, that when we talk about competitive games, there's always two barriers of entry. You have the technical side, the things that every player has to do to basically learn the game. Or, if we're talking about sports, equipment,
Mm-hmm.
like if I
Yeah.
want to play
Yep.
golf, I need golf clubs. That
Yep.
goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the mastery of the player. This is how that person will improve or basically make the sport or make the game their own. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we
Your
were talking
short
about,
game, your if you're talking about golf again, your
yeah,
short game, your drive, I
hmm
mean your putts, your backswing, those kind of
being able to
things.
like read the fairway, being able to understand how
Mm-hmm.
wind will affect your ball. Like these are things that everyone has to learn differently, or everyone has different understandings of it.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you were saying earlier with Nioh, for instance, like picking what weapon class or what armor class, that would be
Yeah.
something that's different.
Yep.
And when it comes down to it, this is what kind of distinguishes the players. Like I was using basketball as an example. A kid just starting out and a professional NBA player both have to learn how to dribble a ball. That's,
Yep.
basic for basketball.
Yep.
But how that NBA player learns, the expert stuff. Again, sports and I have a very distant relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's a
Free
difference.
free throws, the
Yeah,
3-point shot, dunking, layups, passing, dribbling,
exactly.
all those things. Yeah.
And these are elements that you have to learn and you have to practice.
Hmm.
Going back to when I was talking about CCGs, for instance, you're not going to learn how to build the best damn deck 5 minutes
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
learning Hearthstone. And
Yeah.
what you
Well,
do,
and there's also no
yeah,
tutorial that teaches you how to
mastery,
build a deck.
yeah,
And I've played a lot of card games out there.
hmm
Like they always teach you how to play the game,
hmm
but they never teach you the customization
hmm
options or like what to look for in those options.
hmm
Because at one side, I kind of understand you can't teach
hmm
somebody. You can teach them the mechanics of customization, but customization ultimately comes from the player
hmm
themselves.
Yep, and that's the element that really separates, the different pros, or that separates, the top 500 players from the top 100 players.
Yeah, very much so.
And again, I think this is where we get into like this idea of like the personality of the person, or how the player becomes like a celebrity, or they become like a part of the game or part of the sport.
Yeah.
Again, like your Tony Hawks, Sonic Fox, PR Balrog, and
Mm-hmm.
insert a professional StarCraft player here. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
follow the StarCraft scene too much lately,
Yeah.
but again, like this is how like the professionals establish themselves. It's not just about everyone doing the exact same thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
about how this person takes that mastery and basically adds their own interpretation to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, now one of the interesting things is like when it comes to something like fighting games and
Mhm.
accessibility, like I think that's one of the biggest issues with the fighting games is that
Mhm.
it's an issue which I think the fighting game community is kind of at odds
Oh
at
yes.
itself from with it, where you have like look at a game like one of my favorite examples is Skullgirls.
Mhm.
Skullgirls has a straight up teach you tutorial mode where you can go in and actually learn the basics of fighting games,
Yeah.
like dodge, dodge cancels,
Oh
special attacks,
yes.
those kind of things. And but there's also You're also starting to see this more like in an Injustice and the
Mm-hmm.
Injustice games, which I don't think a lot of people even talked about this, but a lot of Injustice games actually show you how to do attacks in those games.
Mm-hmm.
And and those kind of attacks, how to attacks or during the story mode. Sorry, that's what
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about is the story mode. And the story mode really, touches on some of the basics of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and those basics are good enough, are good enough to really
Mm-hmm.
get you started on
Mm-hmm.
what makes a fighting game,
Mm-hmm.
and how to actually succeed in a fighting game.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but everything the Street Fighter tutorial did, Skullgirl's tutorial is just light years
Better,
ahead.
better.
Exactly.
Yep, way better. And I think more fighting games need to take a page out of the Skullgirl book, and
Mm-hmm.
like. I think a lot of these a lot of the games that we're talking, because keep in mind, I think one of the reasons why Skullgirls was able to do that is because it's the first of its kind.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first Skullgirls.
Yeah.
Street Fighter is on the seventh iteration, I think.
I
Like,
don't even know
and
anymore with
and
all the
and that's
different
not even
versions.
counting the EX double
Mm-hmm.
double super
Alpha.
turbo alpha, XYZ. So
Mm-hmm.
when Capcom approaches a Street Fighter game, it's approaching it from, hey guys, this is the next iteration of Street Fighter. You're only buying this because you know what Street Fighter is. When I think that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not, you're not, no, no wonder with that kind of mindset, no wonder you're not growing your base.
Yeah.
No wonder casuals don't want to pick up a fighting game. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Because even the developers themselves are saying, hey,
This is for the Evo top 20 players. Anyone
yeah,
else get out. Like, we'll want you kind of thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and that's where this debate gets very interesting. Like what we were just saying regarding technical versus the player mastery. When it comes to accessibility, it really comes down to which one of these two should be the greater emphasis on mastery of the game. Because like we were mentioning Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite a few minutes ago. And like I
Yeah.
said, they're talking about making the combos easier to do, streamlining that kind of crazy technical aspect of the game. And you have fighting game, you have like the higher up players complain that it's going to dumb things down. But
But how can you really dumb something down for a higher up player
mm-hmm,
like that? Like, does that, no, like in the acting community we say there are no small roles, only
mm-hmm,
small actors. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? I'm sorry, pros. Your love of the game isn't gonna change
mm-hmm,
just because they make something a little bit,
yeah,
a little bit easier. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's what I meant by when I was really talking about the whole Tekken thing.
mm-hmm,
As a fan of Tekken, who I'm not a pro at
mm-hmm,
all, but as a fan of Tekken, I want to go, okay, well, you made this thing easier,
mm-hmm,
and that dumbing it down for casuals. Yeah, but because this advanced technique is now easier, you're going to grow the base a little bit more, and more people will
mm-hmm,
play the game.
yeah.
So I mean, I'll tell you the truth. Nintendo capitalized the crap out of that.
Oh
Freaking
yes,
whatchamacallit,
Smash Brothers.
with the Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers
Mm-hmm,
is completely dumbed down. Now there are obviously like advanced moves and
mm-hmm,
advanced tactics and stuff like
mm-hmm,
that, but Smash Brothers is a game where it doesn't matter how long you've been playing fighting games,
mm-hmm.
anybody can pick up and play Smash Brothers.
Exactly,
Anybody.
and as you just said, James, there is that divide between a casual and the hardcore. Hardcore play of Smash Brothers is a completely different game compared
Yeah.
to casual Smash Brothers. It's a
Yeah.
game you can play with your 8-year-old cousin or little brother,
And yeah,
or you
yep,
could
and I
go,
did.
yeah,
I have. I've played. Actually, the youngest, my nephew, was 4,
hmm,
and I turned on the coin mode, and he won a couple,
yeah,
and he was a 4-year-old. I mean, and all he knew was I collected coins. You know what I mean? He didn't know what the buttons were, but like, yeah, exactly. Like,
hmm.
yeah,
And like I was telling Josh this story, but I went to a local Smash Brothers tournament. This was like no, I'm pretty sure this was maybe at least 10 years old by now. And I was pair up. I was like, I practiced the single player mode. Like I thought, yeah, I'm pretty good at this game. And my first opponent was like an 8-year-old boy, and he wrecked me. he
Mm-hmm.
he was like doing like the wave canceling, the hyper
Yep.
shield, and I'm just going
Mm-hmm.
like, what the hell just happened? Like I sit
Uh,
down and it's like 2 minutes, like you put like a flashcard. 2 minutes later, how the hell did I lose? Kind of thing.
gotta turn in your gamer card.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny because I had the same thing happen to me
Mhm,
in Smash Brothers,
mhm.
and I was fighting like a young girl who could not have been more than like 12, and like she picked Ness and destroyed my face. I
Mhm.
am not ashamed to say,
I'm pretty
you
sure
know.
he picked Jigglypuff, which I know
Oh
Jigglypuff is
wow,
just
wow.
like a. And I probably should have known right there that a lot of pain was coming my way when he did
When
that.
he picked Jigglypuff, yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's the beauty of Smash Bros. And as you just said, this was a game Nintendo wasn't making an esports game. They could
No, no, they
care
won.
less about Evo and
Yep,
tournaments.
yep.
And yet the fighting game community took to it, and it's still
Oh yeah.
surprising. Like again, when
Well,
you
there's a lot of people talking about whether or not Smash
oh
Brothers
yes,
is
I've
even really a fighting game,
oh yes, I've
which
been
it,
watching.
it it is. It,
Mhm.
it is. I'm gonna go on record and say, come on, people. It's a fight. It's a fighting game. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? When you have two characters and they're sitting around beating the crap out of
Mhm.
it's a fighting game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I think that I think we as gamers we might go down the line
Mhm.
and say start splitting genres and
Mhm.
start maybe calling it like a battle fighter or whatnot, or arena battle fighter. You know what I mean? To be, if we want to split hairs, but still I
Mhm.
would still put that under the category of fighting game. Yeah.
Mhm. And that's kind of as you were just saying. Sorry, my
Mm,
just got like a little throat closing there, allergy wise. But as you were just saying, like there is that debate about Smash Brothers, and the same thing again is about whenever we see games trying to be accessible when it comes to competitive based titles. And again, like I was talking about with StarCraft earlier. I mean,
yeah.
Blizzard is not stupid. I think we can safely say that at this point. I am
Yeah, I think
sure
that's a safe bet.
I am sure they have a itemized list of things that they could change on StarCraft 2 to make it the most accessible RTS game in the world.
Hmm.
But would they be able to do that and still keep the hardcore and esports community happy?
Yeah, I don't
That
know.
is the big question, and that's what people are kind of debating about with Marvel versus Capcom Infinity. And I was talking about this the other night. Like for me, when it comes to fighting games, I cannot remember combo strings to save my life. I've made peace with myself about that part. Like again, like for those of you who watch my very short-lived Street Fighter V series, which is just basically me losing for an hour to 2 hours, like
Yeah.
I try to do those combo strings, like the tutorial when they show the list, and like
Hmm.
I can do it there, but then the millisecond that leaves a screen, I completely
Hmm.
forgot the combo. Like I cannot
Yeah.
retain that information. Like it's and that's weird. Like I can remember video games I've played over 20 years ago. I can still see them in my head. Ask
Hmm.
me to remember any combo string in a fighting game, and it doesn't work. Like I just lose it. And like for me, like that would be an example of a technical barrier. Like I
Yeah.
understand timing. I understand the footsie play. I can understand that kind of momentum and tempo of a fighting game. But
Hmm.
if your game is going to be combo centric, then that basically kicks me
That kind
out
of
of playing your game.
eliminates you. Yeah, completely.
And
Yeah.
like I was talking to Josh about this the other night. Like I'm watching the Injustice 2. Like they've been doing the character reveals over the last few
Oh yeah,
weeks,
yeah.
and they show you like the advanced play. With like hit him, send him to the back, juggle the guy, and then
Hmm.
shenanigans happen in the air. And I'm just watching them. I'm going, I will never figure any of this out. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how long I play, I will never do anything like that. So like again, like if I just want to play the story mode, that's great. But then I'm
Yeah.
really just getting half a game. Like,
Half a game. Yep. You're losing content.
hmm and and again, like it's one of those things. Like, is this really what makes a fighting game professional or makes it competitive? Like this barrier, this technical barrier of entry, or like I was telling Josh, like, I feel like it should be more on the player mastery. And the example that I used, which I said in my post, was skateboarding.
Hmm.
Skateboarding has a very low technical element. You just need a skateboard. That's it. You
Yeah.
don't need anything else, and then it's all on you to figure things out.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this too. Like this is why I was really interested in For Honor to see how it would go because we were talking about this when the game came out. It felt like a fighting game without the fighting game baggage associated with it.
Yeah, but we quickly learned that
Hmm.
that was not the case.
Yeah,
For Honor is a fighting game with all of the fighting game baggage. Like
it's just
it real,
monetized
it's just
baggage.
monetized. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. For Honor quickly, I don't want to say devolved, but really just kind of showed its true
Hmm.
colors, which is kind of funny because like I have friends that are huge fighting game. I have a friend who's a really big fighting game fan, and he loves For Honor. He
Hmm.
loves that game. He thinks that game is like the
Hmm.
bee's knees. But I also have a friend who doesn't play a lot of fighting games,
Hmm.
and he likes For Honor. But he likes it more because I think it's more he's just very very good at it. So and
Hmm.
if you're very very good at something, you usually tend to like it a lot more. So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Yeah, and it really is a shame about For Honor because I know we were again like really putting our hopes on this kind of again trying to break through the competitive fighting scene because as we've seen the competitive fighting games, especially those at Evo, have certainly been dominated by a few key games. Mortal
mm-hmm,
Kombat,
yep,
Injustice, Street Fighter, and
mm-hmm,
then of course Smash Brothers kind of being, the odd man out in a strange
yep,
sense.
yep.
But that again raises this point. I guess here's my question for you, James. Can the competitive scene thrive if the game is made more casual? Like again, like something like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Yes. Yes, it can. And here's why. The competitive scene will, let's put it this way, they are always going to complain when a change is made to the game,
Mm-hmm.
whether it makes it more casual, whether they change a character
Mm-hmm.
around, whether somebody's hair is 2 inches longer than it used to be. Let's face it, a lot of the competitive, and I'm not saying bad, and I'm not saying this is a negative thing. I'm saying these are fans, these are super
Mm-hmm.
fans
Oh
that are going
yes.
to keep the game going. And the same thing for Honor. I know I got out of For Honor everything I wanted to get out of it, but super fans of For Honor are gonna fully enjoy it, and they're gonna keep that game going as long as possible because
Mm-hmm.
that's their game and they really like it.
Yep.
So when you deal on that level, it doesn't matter what kind of changes are going to be made to the game.
They're gonna
The
stick
fans
around.
are all they're the ones keeping the game alive.
Mm-hmm.
So the competitive audience, even if it oh well, the game is casual now. Okay, are you going to stop playing it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but I'm going to complain. Well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then that's fine. You just
Yeah.
enjoy complaining,
Yeah.
and
And
like,
oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, as I was saying, that's what we were talking about. That in order for a game to be esports popular, esports worthy, you have to cater to the cores, casuals, and or I'm sorry, you have to cater to the casual and core players as
Hmm.
much as you, or even more so than you cater to the hardcore. Because as you
Yeah,
said, the hardcore they're going to stick around.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We know they know. Yep.
like with Heroes of the Storm, like obviously the 2.0 came out. I've been trying it. I know a lot of people who are new are trying out, but I'm
Mhm.
sure there are hardcore people who have been there since day one, still playing Heroes of the Storm.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, like I said, I haven't been there since day one, but yeah,
Hmm.
I was playing Hero of the Storm a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
I'm like, I fully enjoy the game. I
Hmm.
really do. I think it's a fun game. It reminds me, it gives me all that fun of League of Legends, but with
Hmm.
more things to actually do.
Hmm.
And I think it also attracts Blizzard fans too,
Hmm.
because it is a Blizzard property.
Oh
So
yes. And again, like if you're going to make your game easier to get into and improve the player base, that's only going to help your game more in the long run than it will hurt it. Because
yep,
again,
very true.
once if you remain insular, then your community will never grow. Because who's going to want to join a game that it's only catered to the extreme players? How is someone brand new? Like, again, like here's the question, and I'm for you watching this as well. How is someone brand new who has never played a Street Fighter game before expected to learn Street Fighter 5?
Yeah.
like, how are they supposed to do this with the tutorial guidance in the game as it is? How is someone brand new supposed to figure that game out and learn and grow from it? It's almost near impossible. And I know
Yeah.
someone, if they're watching this, may comment and say, well, just let them watch professional players. But that's not the point. The game should be doing the teaching. If the
Yeah.
game can't teach you how to play itself, then the designer has failed. It just goes
Very
without.
true.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And XP saying to the arcades, there's no arcades around here anymore. That was the topic of my first presentation, that the arcade scene is dying. Although I did try
Yeah.
playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcade once, with the whole quarter rules, put your quarter down. And again, I
Uh,
got kicked off that machine in like 2 minutes. So, professional fighting games and I, again, you won't be seeing me at Evo anytime soon. I will not be on stage anytime soon at an Evo
uh,
tournament.
yeah.
But that's kind of the challenge. Again, is where or what should. Or here's my question for you, James. I know we are over an hour at this point, so we'll begin to wrap this up. So my final question for you, James, is this: when you think of being a professional or esports level at a competitive game, what do you think makes up the skills of someone who's able to play at like the grandmaster level?
Practice. Practice, 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 practice. I've been watching a lot of the professional coaching for Overwatch lately,
Mm-hmm.
and listening to a lot of people talk about different characters from Overwatch
Mm-hmm.
and how they got to where they are, how they got to train other people to get to where they
Mm-hmm.
are, and the same thing they say, which is another reason why esports right now is being talked about as an actual sport, and
Mm-hmm.
because it requires practice,
Mm-hmm.
practice, 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 and not just with characters you like. Practice all the characters with all the characters,
Mm-hmm.
so you know what they can do, and you start seeing similar. When the more you practice and the more you play, the more similarities you start seeing,
Mm-hmm.
and you start. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that like, and with that kind of stuff, like, and this is something that a tutorial should, a well-made tutorial can start
Mm-hmm.
helping too, where it's
Yes.
like where the buttons on a character never change. You know what I mean? Batman in the new Injustice 2,
Mm-hmm.
Batman and Green Lantern,
Mm-hmm.
if you press X, are gonna do, not that they're gonna do the exact same thing, but pressing X is going to cause something to happen. Now, what happens is,
Mm-hmm.
on a character to character basis, but
Mm-hmm.
telling people that like certain mechanics, game mechanics, like a sweep or a block, sweeping, with Batman, if you press this button, Batman will sweep. If you press this button, Superman sweeps. You know what I mean? Like, and that teaches people, one, what sweeping is, and two, that each one of those characters does a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
And
yeah.
then start talking about the advanced stuff,
Mhm.
crossovers,
Crossovers. This is what it looks like when.
anti-air.
Well, but even throwing in the fact that different characters have different crossovers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, this is like what I would always do is like I would put a comparative side by side of two different characters and then go, this is what it looks like when they do this move. This is what it looks like when this other person
Mm-hmm.
does this move. What that does is it allows players to go, oh, okay, a sweep is a sweep, regardless of whether Batman does it or Green Lantern does it. The only thing that's changing is they look different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said at the start, I think there should be as little technical, there should be as few technical barriers in your game as possible. Like if like I think like standardizing special moves would be a good part of that. If Batman has a down forward punch, then Superman should have a down forward punch. Like if that is your combo or is that your special move string, then that should be standardized across your characters. Like don't make your game intentionally difficult to get into because all you're going to do is just again make that barrier higher and higher. The focus, as you said, should be on practicing and mastering these characters. Like once I know what the special moves are, like make that as simple as possible and then let me start to experiment with them. Let me figure out, how to string special moves together. or a good combo. Like, don't just hardcore elements in that are only going to be there that just simply require you to, memorize them or, put them like under your eyelids while you're playing a game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, but now as far as like standardizing things,
Mm-hmm.
I do think one of the reasons why they don't do that
Mm-hmm.
is because of they need to have characters need to have different
Mm-hmm.
things that separate them, that make them different characters to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, in Mortal Kombat, one of my favorite characters is Ferrator, and Ferrator's trip is different, has a longer range
Mm-hmm.
than like almost anybody else in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And like you only know that when you after playing Ferrator for a while and knowing what a trip looks like, and
Mm-hmm.
the very fact that that's what you're doing there. So
Mm-hmm. And again, like, this discussion is probably just going to keep on going as we
Mhm.
see, especially as esports is trying to position itself more in the mainstream. Because that's
Yeah,
another big part. If you want the mainstream to enjoy your game, you have to make it accessible.
very
One of
true.
the challenges, again, we were talking about like Overwatch. One of the things that make Overwatch a really bad esports game is that it's very hard to watch. It's very hard to process what's going on. The
What's
same
going on? Yeah.
and like the same can also be said of like MOBAs as well. Like you really need a good commentator to try and
Hmm.
explain what's going on. But even then, like again, like when
If
I play like Heroes of Storm, like there are cases where all of a sudden it just becomes screen full of special effects. One
Yep.
team dies. It's like what the
Yep.
hell just happened
What
there?
just happened? Yeah, and from a user standpoint, if you have not played the game yourself, and so this is one of the biggest differences between actual sports and esports.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, by the time you're 6 or 7, you've thrown a baseball, you've
Mm-hmm.
thrown a football, or at least you know how the concept of ball works, and can
Mm-hmm.
pretty much replicate that at will.
Mm-hmm.
Wherein not everybody has access to these
Mm-hmm.
some to a lot of these things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody can be like, oh well, everybody plays League of Legends. No, not
No.
not not everybody does. You know what I mean? And even
Yeah.
if they do, trying to describe it to other people is again,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you run into those kind of problems. So
Yeah.
I think before those kind of games become more esports horrific, or
Mm-hmm.
more relative to the general
Mm-hmm.
audience, they're going to have to figure out a way to make those rules universal or understandable by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
And make things more streamlined so that if someone watches, let's say they watch E-League and they watch a really good Street Fighter match or a really good Injustice match, and they go, hey, that looks really fun, let me try and play it. They pick up and they're not immediately bombarded by input a 12 button command string combo string,
yeah,
or you
yeah,
will not
yeah.
be able to play multiplayer.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of the problem. Like as you just said, and you made a really good point that when we talk about other sports, we're either introduced to it at a young age or we're able to watch and experience it, and it's become a part of our culture. I mean, again, football and baseball in America. Let's face it; those are some very big things. And at
Hmm.
this point, even if you never like, for myself, I don't think I've ever sat through an entire football game. I can at least have a reasonable idea of how you play it. Same
Yeah.
goes for tennis, baseball,
Hmm.
basketball. But again, you ask someone, okay, how do you play a League of Legends game? It's like,
Yeah. Well,
special effects.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's a lot less because you're missing that physicality. You
Mhm,
kind of, I don't think it's as easy for other people to understand. And who
mhm,
knows, maybe in 2045,
mhm.
League of Legends will be as easy to explain as football. But I just don't think we're quite there yet.
No, we're not.
Now, although fighting games are a lot easier,
Mhm.
and the appeal to watch
Yes.
professional fighting games is there because it's
Hmm.
pretty easy to understand.
Two
One
people.
one guy hit other guy
Hmm.
till one guy fall down. You know what I mean? But if you think about it, the only reason that works is because we already have a real life fighting game is something that happens in real life. Like
Minus
actually,
Hadoukens and
yeah,
cross up combos.
minus the Dukins and cross ups. Yeah, we
Although that
already
would certainly make a real fight a
a
lot more
very
exciting.
very interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
wouldn't it? So yeah.
All right, I think we'll wrap things up. I guess to end our discussion, besides, of course, Injustice 2, are there any other like fighting games or competitive games on the horizon that you're interested in trying out, James?
Pretty much Injustice 2 has kind of been plaguing the list. Actually, I already put up a pre-order already, so yep, I'm
All
really
right.
excited for Injustice.
Well, maybe I'll see about trying to grab a copy and we can maybe do some PS4. Because oh wait,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
and I'm just wondering if I'll need like PS Plus or at some
Oh,
point.
I don't think so. Most fighting games aren't don't need that. Don't need
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, then maybe we can do some plays, and you can we can have you commentate as you kick my ass for 30 minutes in a
Yeah,
fighting
well,
game.
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I'm not the best. I do enjoy fighting games, but
Mhm.
I'm definitely not top tier.
And here's hoping that they do more opening up of the Gwent beta, because I would really love
Oh
to get your
yeah, yeah.
thoughts
Because
on that.
I want to play. I want to play that, and then
Hmm.
when that opens up, you can kick my butt and
Yeah.
Gwent.
Well, we'll see. All right. So we're going to end things here. Again, we went a little bit over as always, but that's somewhat to be expected. So, James, once again, thanks for coming on. I think we had a really great conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So again, for those of you watching this on Twitch, be sure to check out our double podcast this week. If you are in the Atco, New Jersey area Friday around 6:30, stop in and say hi to me while I'm frightening kids about what it means to make games for a living. And let me see, and be sure to tune in for more streams of games like Renowned Explorers, Nioh, and whatever else I can grab off my Steam list. There should be another game stream later tonight, either more of Nioh or of the upcoming Renowned Explorers expansion. But otherwise, that will do it. So, right now, we don't unfortunately have any live streams to announce just yet. Ideally, we'll have something soon. And other than that, James, I guess we will chat again real soon, and hopefully next Thursday we'll have some more great discussions to be had.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So with that said, have a great night, folks. For whether you're watching this live or recorded, and we will you'll see me probably with some more vlogs over the weekend, and we'll talk again live next Thursday. Until then, have a great night.